Welcome to today's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Tom Prendergast, Director of Operations for NEC Financial Services. Thanks for joining me, Tom.
Hey, thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it. Appreciate the invite.
No, I'm just glad you're able to join me. I'll have to get into kind of our story later in this, but I'm going to stick with my original format and have you introduce yourself and your career in equipment finance, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah. My name is Tom Prendergast. I'm with NEC Financial Services. I've been with NEC for over 20 years. I run the operations group here. The operations group is pretty much everything except sales and accounting. It's credit, documentation, litigation, customer service, IT, collections, pretty much everything except sales and accounting. And I have a good group of people who kick butt for me and for this and to make me look good. So, but I started about 20 years ago with NEC, a little over 20 years ago. It was my introduction to the industry. And I started on the IT side and slowly worked myself into the operations role and through credit. That's kind of the 5,000 foot.
Oh, that's perfect. And let's just talk NEC Financial real quick.
Sure.
Just a little background on it.
NEC Financial Services is a wholly owned subsidiary of NEC Capital Solutions out of Japan. We actually had an ownership change just about a year ago. We were formerly owned by NEC Corporation of America that was headquartered out of Irving, Texas. We are a captive finance organization. Obviously, we support the NEC products, and the NEC products range from office technology, from phone systems, and well, we were in the document solutions game for ages, but as well as projectors, displays, and then going as deep into advanced recognition systems, facial recognition, biometrics, even high-end servers. A lot of our it seems like there's probably an NEC product in your house, whether you know it or not, or some component that NEC made over the years. I mean, they make so much and they do so much, and they have some incredible cutting-edge technologies, and we're lucky enough to be involved in these transactions and see these things at our trade shows. Well, not in the last 18 months, but it's always been a good partnership. We've long been a captive, but a captive with the ability to do things outside of the NEC brand. Even our prior ownership allowed us to, I don't want to say dabble out, but support our dealers who sell other products, even competing products. We've able to support the dealer base. We largely sell through our channel distribution, our channel vendors. But since our new owner, we've kind of we've had our doors opened a little bit more to some different asset classes that we've been involved with, material handling, power solutions, even some yellow iron, some trucks, some title vehicles, things like that. So we're starting to expand our asset base and diversify it more and more. But for the first 18, 19 years that I was here, the lion's share of our assets was office technology, phone systems. Phone systems were huge. Not as much a commodity anymore, but they're mostly hosted, and NEC has a great product that we are actually converting to right now. That is a hosted solution, and I don't think anybody wants hardware on premise anymore, or the ones who do. It's just it's a logistical headache. Yeah, it's a logistical headache, and it's every 3 years you're turning over hardware, and So it's not cheaper. It's not cheaper in any way, shape, or form, but
No,
it's definitely a route that we have taken. I might be jumping around subjects here, but the
no, it's
pandemic
fine.
the pandemic kind of I want to say accelerated that with us. We were big Teams users, and we had started the process of having people work from home,
Okay.
um, testing out working from home, and it was really a response to Hurricane Sandy and I forget the other one, but there was a couple of storms in the New York, New Jersey area that had us down for a significant amount of time, a couple of days, which can't happen.
No.
You can't service your customer base, and so we looked into starting to train our staff to work from home, and could we do it? And then March 13th, 2020, good luck.
Don't have a
Go hit it,
choice.
because you're home. You're home for the foreseeable future. So yeah, I mean, we kind of hit the ground running. We didn't really skip a beat. We had nobody in the office for 3 months, and then I started coming back, and one or two other people started coming back, but really just to have somebody in here in case we still had on-premise equipment at that time, and to make sure that the servers and our VPN connections and everything were up and running. Um, but it's yeah, I mean, really kind of I'm not sure. I think I got off track here, but
No,
the
you're fine.
pandemic really pushed us towards that realm of understanding the importance of a decentralized office, the ability to work from home um, efficiently, not just work from home. It's one thing if you come into the office and you have 5 screens and you have a phone and you have all this stuff, and then you go home and you're working on a 9-inch laptop screen. You're just not as efficient. You just aren't.
Right.
So we were able to, on March 13th, when we were told to be out, we ran out and we bought a slew of monitors. We had everybody put up multiple monitors in their houses, and you
You had an
know,
inside track on how to get the technology. That's for
uh,
sure.
yeah, I mean, it helped, but and then we had people come and pick them up and take them home, and most people have set up a home office now and are pretty much working from home. I know you're used to that, but we were largely, if you want to call it, we were largely a brick and mortar office. I mean, we were coming
Yeah.
in and,
Yeah.
9 to 5:30 type day, and, working out of the office. So it was a change. A lot of people like it. Some people didn't, or still don't. It's not for everybody, but it's been great to realize that we were able to do it, not skip a beat, and to be honest with you, do it during a really, really difficult time to do it. I mean, you had, we had portfolio concerns, obviously, during the pandemic, and then we also had, even just security concerns. How was, these people are going to be working from home. There's, added networks into here. When your machine was staying in the office, it was staying in the office. We knew what was going on. At home, we don't know what's going. We do, but we don't.
Yeah.
Um, and knock on wood, but we got through it. Some tough days, but for the most part, we got through it. And then now we live on Teams. We live on Zoom calls like this. I think my phone rings a couple times a week. Everything else is a Zoom, is some sort of Teams or Zoom call, which has definitely been a change.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a change for the better. I think, even talking about doing Teams calls, or Zoom calls with your staff and with all the people in your company. I mean, it kept people in touch with each other, and it kept
Yeah.
it
I mean,
kept
I
it
look
more.
at stuff like this. I mean, 2 years ago, if you were to do one of these calls, would your camera really be on talking to me?
I wouldn't
Probably
be
not.
comfortable with it on. I could tell you that.
Right, right. It was like
I would
taped over,
say,
right?
yeah,
Like,
or either
oh.
that, or I would just be like, this is ridiculous. Dude. Can I turn this off? I think we're just used to it. We've just gotten used to having the cameras on all the time, and um, having meetings with. It's amazing how it's changed. Where the first couple Zoom calls, team calls that you were on, everybody was kind of talking over each other, and then there developed this almost like um
That's a good
you
point.
know this like
You can
this
almost anticipate when it's your turn,
right.
and yeah. Yep.
And there's almost like like people understand like when it not only when their turn is, but they're more ready to acquiesce to let someone else talk and go through it. And it evolved on its own. I mean, it wasn't something that you sat there and you didn't have to regiment. At the beginning, you'd have to be like, all right, Jesse, you're going to talk for 5 minutes. Tom, you're going to talk for five. And now
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of you can have a loose discussion where almost you can't even have it as well in a conference room. You're sitting in a conference room and people start talking over each other, cutting each other off. That's usually when things get a little chippy. But
You can't help when a young child walks in, or like a dog
right,
interrupts or something like that,
sure,
which a couple of years ago people would be like, "That's so rude," and now
yeah,
they understand where it's like, "Okay, well, your dog's barking now, buddy." So
yeah, everything.
who's the rude one?
I
But
mean,
like, so I've been
a
on the sales
tie.
side. Yeah.
When's the last time you wore a tie? Like, it's kind of casualized the environment, certainly within the office, but even with, I was on a call with a couple of attorneys today, and there was one attorney in a sweatshirt, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's good, bad. It's just been different. And
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I think of so you don't manage the sales side, but I've been on the business development side pretty much my entire career, and I consider this, if I'm one of your salespeople in the field, as opposed to you be like, I'm not traveling, I have too much stuff to do. But if I'm in front of a customer, you can zoom in now, and
yeah,
it gives you more exposure and it gives me more assistance because I have the ops team who can be in these sales calls now.
right. And I would imagine a sales engineer or somebody like that may want, you may or may not want them physically in front of the customer and
Or
be
on
able
camera,
to,
or on camera.
yeah, yeah. Well, but no, but like kind of control the narrative of what they can say and what they can't say
Yeah.
from a sales cycle. I would understand that too, where you can bring in a sales engineer who can answer the questions that are asked. But it's almost like going to court. You know, the attorney wants you to say what he asks you and nothing more. He or she doesn't want you to expand on that or make any of your own judgments or give your own opinions on anything. Just answer what I ask.
No, that's fair. So you touched on a couple things. Like when I first met you in 2000, what was that, 2005? I think when I started with OSG.
Yeah, that's probably around there,
Um,
2004,
I never heard
2005.
of NEC before, but then again, I was only 22, and then I started seeing like your equipment's literally everywhere, like the
Everywhere.
display side of thing. Like you look at it, it's like NEC or
Dunkin'
any of
Donuts,
these.
McDonald's, all the menu boards or NECs. It's funny. It's and even being in this industry, and I'm sure anyone who watches this would say the same thing. You sit in traffic and you go, that's a customer of ours. That's a customer of ours. Like you see, you pass the sign. Yep, we did business with them. You see it after a while. And NEC products. I mean, I see them in movies. Like it's an NEC projector. It's an NEC phone. I mean, in movies, television shows. On the news. And it'll be in the background. I'll be like, "There's an NEC phone." I mean, you just
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
recognize the things readily like that. It's pretty funny.
Well, and then from a technology, the pivoting off of those phone systems, right, and on to the next gen. And then I think of, I immediately thought of you when the movie theaters, right? It's like, what does that look like moving forward? Like, you're trying to tell me I can buy a movie for $20 and I can watch it at home, and I don't need to go spend $60 taking my family to a movie when I can just control that environment here. And, you know, so how was that impact on those customers, Tom? And
That's a really good question, and you've definitely done your homework there. Yeah, we had so NEC was a big manufacturer and supplier of both standard projection systems and 3D projection systems in a lot of large American and well all over the world, but really in a lot of American cinemas. And we had a really big portfolio of these customers who, prior to the pandemic, the industry was really kind of thought of as recession proof. The industry was, it was a cheap night out. If you and your wife wanted to go to dinner and a movie, it could be $100 night compared to if you wanted to go into, a show or something. Now you're into 200, 250. So it was always
yeah,
kind of considered that the movies would always have people there. Um, the pandemic obviously shuttered theaters for a long time. And some of them are still kind of creeping back open with limited showings, and even there's another piece to the industry that is kind of left out, which is there are theaters that don't necessarily show first run movies; they show second run. So they get something that's out right now, like the new James Bond, not in the first month, but they get it right after that, and they show it possibly cheaper, or they have some other amenity to the theater.
right.
Um, Immediately prior to the pandemic, theaters started creating, and I'm sure you have them by you, everyone has them, um, more of an experience. It wasn't just a movie anymore. They added full dining in some. There's one chain particular.
Recliner seats where you sit there
Right,
and go all the way back, and it's like, okay, this is great. A
right.
bar, a bar.
Yeah. Bar. There's one client of ours who actually has a distillery and a brewery in their theater, of their own whiskey and bourbon and their own beer, along with food. And and then there's another theater chain that was doing something where it was like, you got your own private like couch area with top like 5-star food service, like real restaurants, sushi and stuff, like, not chicken fingers and mozzarella sticks. um, and it was interesting. It was really getting to the point where it was more of an experience than it was
Yeah,
about the movie anymore. um, and then the pandemic hit, everything shut down. um, there was no movies. There wasn't movies being made. There wasn't,
right.
there wasn't anyone who was coming in. I mean, the theaters shut down pretty quickly too. I mean, New York was shut
Yeah,
in March, and I don't think it opened back up until like last July, or this July. So you're talking about, 15, 16 months of being just completely shuttered. Um, Even the areas of the country that weren't hit hard right away eventually started closing too. So the theaters really started having cash flow issues. Um, we kind of got in front of it a little bit. Um, we proactively reached out to the owners of the theaters and said, we're going to take, without divulging secret sauce, but I'm sure everybody did a similar thing. Um, we just agreed to take some of the payments and move them to the back end. No change to yield. We just moved into the back end because it was the right thing to do. These were good
yeah,
customers of ours. Never had an issue before, and now, we've we've injected something that hasn't existed in my lifetime. A catastrophic event that, no one is prepared for, basically a year of being shut down. No one is.
no, no,
So we moved a lot of the payments to the back, and we I would say a good portion of that portfolio, less than 50%, but close to there, we were concerned about. Um, and some of them we had to do extensions past, the initial extensions. Some of them we went to 3 extensions. And then we type of like interest only type payments. There's still minor payments, but starting to get some cash flow in on the transaction. Um, and and then thankfully, the feds came up with there's these things that are called shuttered venue operators grant, the SVOG grants,
Oh,
which
okay.
gave there was it was a lot. It was I want to say it was like 16 billion
Okay.
was released to the industry that these venues put into place, put in applications to be approved for it. It took a while, but for the most part, most of them that we've done business with were able to obtain SVOG money, which added to their cash flow immediately. And it was kind of a windfall in both ways, because now these theaters have opened up. They're starting to get the cash flow back. If the theater holds 100 people, I think you'd be lucky to find 40 people in a theater right now.
Yeah,
My
that's fair.
opinion, that's me going, I don't know that from anything other than I've been to the theater and there's not that many people there.
I want to say that maybe 10%. And I've
Yeah,
been to the movies about 10 times
yeah,
since they opened up out here, and maybe you see like 20 people in the theater at best.
yeah. So what the SVOG grants did was it basically injected some capital into these entities. There's strict requirements on what they can use it for, and they could use it
Sure.
for past rentals. So
Okay.
most of even the ones that we've restructured, they got back on cash flow positive. They were able to use the money to pay us and pay some other debts, and now they have cash flow, and they're back on track. I think regardless of the industry, I think we all kind of felt the benefits of federal injections of cash. I think we would have been in a far different situation from a delinquency standpoint and write-offs standpoint if there wasn't the kind of injections that we've seen.
No,
But
I
if you
agree.
if you told me back in April of 2020 when theaters were closing down, um, yeah, I wasn't. Not only did theaters close down, but you pointed out a good point too, is the actual studios now were actually directly going to the consumer and bypassing the theaters. Now they were making it so that for $20 you could go get the newest movie on your TV at home. um you know I don't feel right doing that because we have customers, but uh,
Right.
and I still like going to the theater. I still like the actual experience of a theater. But I can see the people that would say, $20 is worth it. And, that's kind of biting the hand that feeds you from the studios. I can't imagine that that's going to be a forever thing. And I think once the studios are back open, because the studios definitely control what goes in and out of the theaters, and they know how many people are watching it, and they have statistics on all that stuff. So I would be surprised if it stays that way, or if or the industry itself will just have to pivot and become more of an experience industry, which they already are.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe,
No,
I don't know, adding arcades. There's places all over the country that are bowling alleys with a movie
no,
theater and
I
an
mean,
arcade and all.
there's a fat cats that I can drive a golf cart to. So it's like, why would I not want to do that and just go there for the event?
Yeah, 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 it's true. But long story short, we were able to navigate through it. We are comfortable with our portfolio right now and where it is, and the customers that we still have on the books. Many of them were able to use the SVOG money to pay off and close out their balances with us. And we're looking at the industry going forward as being, it was a very good industry for us. It was good
I didn't
business.
think
And
about when you mentioned the whole retinal scanning and everything. I didn't think about that, but that makes sense
yeah,
from a new business line perspective, or I guess probably not new, but I didn't realize you
Well,
guys had that in your portfolio.
it's more facial recognition.
Yeah, facial recognition. There you
And
go.
and that's you and I were talking before you started the recording, and you were cursing a lot more back
Oh
then.
yeah, yeah, of course.
No, but no, I mean it's amazing having traveled for the first time in 18 months. Um, you notice the change in almost nobody wants contact with another human being right now. And it's like it seems like it's the wave of the future, and the way where it's going to go next is contactless everything. If you can get from your car to the airport, through the airport to your hotel, into your hotel room without ever having to touch or deal with a person, I think people are ready for that. Whereas if you went back 18 months ago, 2 years ago, it would be, well, I want to talk to the person at the front desk, and I want to get my, you know, our company or our sister companies have developed you know, um, contactless entry systems for hospitality, where you would go in, you'd go to a kiosk, you'd scan your phone, it would spit out your keys, you would confirm anything that you need from concierge, and you'd go up to your room.
Hmm.
You know, that's interesting. The Delta terminals in Atlanta, I believe, is a facial recognition terminal for, using the facial recognition. But, your TSA if everything could be loaded onto something and you don't have to go talk to anybody at any time, I would imagine at some point entries onto the actual planes would be that. Your boarding group will open the gate, whether you're
Yeah, I
scanned
mean,
into the
I'm
boarding group.
clear, so it's like they go, they scan my eyes, and I just don't have to show anything. Just
Right.
go.
Yeah. And it's so it's like I think we were talking about kind of like the changes that have happened from this, and the good things versus bad things. I think the contactless and the technology is evolving so quickly and amazingly. It's probably going to eliminate some labor, um, or that labor will have to pivot and be something else. But it sure seems like we're in the realm of not wanting to really deal with a human, if at all possible. And I don't know that that's a good thing, but for a lot of things, and don't get me wrong, I like
Yeah.
human interaction, but when I need something from my bank or from Verizon Wireless, I don't want to talk on the phone with you. I want to go through a chat. I want to go through, I want to be, I don't want to say a faceless contact, but I just want to be able to do it on my own terms and not, sit on a call for 40 minutes until I finally get somebody and then have to talk. So it's
Yeah,
and I think all of that has been accelerated in the last 18 months.
I agree. Yeah,
You know,
I
the,
agree.
the
Yeah.
number of phone calls that we used to get in the office per day was almost triple what we're getting now. But we created our own customer portal and put it out, and and between e-invoicing and customer portals and chat, chat on our website, chat is almost as many chats into the office as there are phone calls into the office now. It's just taken a technology pivot. I don't know if it'll ever go back, but it just seems like contactless for certainly for the foreseeable future seems to be an opportunity for us all. Really, there's systems for everything, and it's amazing when you really start looking into it how quickly. I mean, look at how quickly your local grocery store, Target, everything went from having 19 cashiers to sitting there ready to ring you out to here's your self checkout, go
Yeah.
get it, get after it. There's no cost savings. Your bottle of milk isn't any cheaper because you're ringing it out, but I would
Yeah,
rather
where
go
I
to
where I
that.
kind of wonder in regards to where the grocery stores went, where it's like you order online and then you
Yep.
just go pick it up. The only challenge I see with that is it's convenience. You don't really have to deal with anything. But
Right.
what about those add-on sales that you're not getting from those people that walk down the aisle and they're like, oh yeah, I need that.
100%.
I
100%.
need
I
that.
can't go to the grocery store and just get what I want. what I need. I
Or it's
always
like
end up
getting out of
with
Costco for
it.
under $200. It's impossible, right?
Costco, yeah, any of those places. Costco, I'm like, you take a sample and then now you get home, you're like, I don't even have freezer space for all this crap I just bought. Yeah, yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thing, but I guess that'll slowly go back. But even, I don't know. I mean,
The pendulum swung. It's just a
yeah,
matter of like even people coming back to the office. You know, you guys have that nice office that you guys pay for, right? You have all those empty cubicles. Eventually, you're going to sit there and ask yourself the question where it's like, okay, what are we doing here?
right.
The
Which
cafeteria in the bottom
is
of
a
your building,
familiar
right?
conversation.
Right. The
Yeah,
cafeteria in the bottom of your building, they depend on the businesses in your building. Like,
yeah,
if you don't have people that fill them, what are they going to do? It's just
right.
it's tough.
And I don't think we will ever be back to 100% in the office ever. I think we've established, that there's some benefits to a work-life balance of working from
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
But I also think there's a benefit to being, I saw the benefit coming back to the office. I saw the benefit of even some other people coming back to the office and interacting with each other again.
Mm.
Some people who don't necessarily have the best, and this is the thing. Not everybody's got an office to work from home that is comfortable, that is a good fit, that is not chaos around them. Maybe they're
Yeah.
setting up in their laundry room, maybe they're setting up, and it's one of those things where I think that the more that um, we have like maintain a work-life balance, and you can do both if you want to. You can be home once a week, twice a week. Even for the people who want to come in, I think it's a good thing, and it's a good therapeutic thing to be able to do that when you can. If it's really snotty out, I mean, you don't live here anymore, but you know what it's like in the Northeast in January, February. Like if it's 8 degrees and there's snow on the ground, and you can just wake up and grab a cup of coffee and not leave your house.
Yeah. Well, I
Life
think about
life's a
that
lot
commute. I
better.
mean, you mentioned a 9 to 5:30. Let's face it, from a North Jersey perspective, that's a 7:30 to 7 with a potential
Yeah.
commute, right? So people are getting that
Um,
time back. Well, some people are.
yeah, I mean it's something that has getting back to like even like the commercial real estate question. We're probably never going to be full back in the office. We signed, we have a new office 2019. We moved December 2019, we moved into the office. So we were 4 months and then COVID hit.
It's like,
Um,
oh no.
yeah, but listen, the office is gorgeous. Herschel Salem, our president, put a lot of money into the office and made it where it was a good working environment. And it's a nice office. It's good to come to work here. It's an easy commute. It's you know, it's not for everybody. Everybody,
Yeah.
there's still people who aren't comfortable. There's
Yeah.
still people who think, the idea of getting on a plane, going to San Antonio and sitting in a room with 1,000 people is not for everybody, you
No.
know.
Yeah.
And right now, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, maybe not a year from now, until people are really comfortable with it, and get comfortable with it. The idea, I have friends, giant season ticket holder, but as terrible as that sounds, I have friends that, are season ticket holders, and they just, they bought their tickets and they're selling them online, and they're just like, I'm not going. I'm not sitting in an outdoor space with 80,000 people that I
Well,
don't
it
know.
doesn't help the fact that the product on the field is just not worth watching. So
I think,
besides
but
that fact,
this was even before the year started, when we actually thought the Giants were going to be okay. And they still kind of, they
no.
said, nah, no bueno.
Yeah.
And I get it, but I think eventually people will either get comfortable with it. Like, I don't feel like we're done with COVID in any way, shape, or form. I still think we're going to be feeling the effects of it for another year or two. And, whether it's variants or whatever, I think it's just something that's going to be part of our
Yeah.
lives for a while.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I think, certainly this winter, you know, I worry about the shopping malls and the places with a lot of people in it. Yeah, I think people got used to wearing masks and things, but I just think there are people that'll choose to, it's winter time. I don't want to go inside where there's going to be a lot of people, and a lot of
That's fair.
people are sick in the winter anyway, and the last thing you want to do is go get anything from anybody. So I it's still a weird time, man. I still think it's very, it's almost like an open wound still, and
That's fair.
we just keep putting band-aids on it and hoping that one of the band-aids is going to make it just go away, but it's just got to heal. It's
No,
just got to heal over time.
no, I agree. And then in conclusion here, I ask everyone who comes on here, Tom, a little fun fact about yourself. Besides the
Fun
fact that
fact
you
about
love
myself.
besides the fact that you love to be tortured and you're a Giants fan like myself.
Um, what would be a fun fact? Well, I'm a baseball coach.
Okay.
I coach. I'm heavily involved in our local little league, but I also I coach travel baseball. I coached this year. I did a 7 and 8 year old team, a 13 and 14-year-old team, and a 16 and 17-year-old team.
And how
And
old's your son?
my son is 16.
Okay, so that's where I was
Yeah.
like, so you got suckered back into.
I enjoy it.
You enjoy it? Okay.
I enjoy two pieces of it. I enjoy the game a lot,
Okay.
and I enjoy teaching the game, especially to the younger kids when they really are growing and starting to understand the sport. And when the kids get to like 13, 14, when you're old enough to have adult type conversations with them about life and everything, it's awesome to see these kids grow up. And it's really like there's a gentleman that I coach with who he and I are on the same page. And it's really more about developing good citizens, the good athletes and good citizens. I mean, athletes make great employees. Good athletes and good citizens make great employees down the road and make great people down the road. And that's really what we do. We don't just play baseball. We donate a lot of time. My teams always do some things for veterans charities and things like that. And
Nice.
so we'll continue to do stuff like that. But it's just kind of a to be another, I guess, another coach in the room with the kids' parents, and just emphasizing that parenting doesn't just stop when the kids leave you. Your teachers, your coaches, you know your pastors, priests, rabbis, whatever. It's the old takes a village theory.
Yeah.
But I know, but I enjoy it, and that occupies quite a lot of my time and a lot of my money.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Tom. It's always good seeing you.
No, awesome to see you too, man. Hopefully it won't be a year and we'll see you at an alpha thing again.
Sounds great, sir. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks.